Good afternoon. It's David Saline and Chris Coley from Drive. And today we have TJ Copeland with us. Welcome, TJ.
Good afternoon, guys.
So this is actually our last Facebook airing for this year. We're going to take a break until the new year, and we have our special guest TJ with us. So starting off, TJ, we've been bringing shop owners on to talk about, their successes, what they've learned, and how they've done things and made their shops better. So let's start off by telling our viewers a little bit about yourself, your shop, how you got into it, and what are things like right now?
So, as with the whole state of the world right now, things are different. Not necessarily all in a bad way, but they are different. But we started doing mechanical work in this building where we're at now. We put our first building up in '95. Did everything ourselves, from the groundwork to the concrete to erecting the building to the wire and plumbing, the whole shebang. And never expected to be doing what we're doing now. I've got, you could figure 5 to 6 bays that we're keeping relatively busy. And never expected to be working on the size of the equipment we're working on or the volume that we're working on. We do everything from a Prius to a tractor trailer and all forms of equipment around that. And when we first started doing this, when it was Management Success back in the '90s, my father and I went out and explored what it was, and we dabbled with it a little bit. And the first thing we did with that was we put away 3% into an equipment fund and 3% into a backup savings, and that has been a savior for us ever since then. But at that time, Drive or Management Success wasn't heavily into the truck side of things where we were, and we got back involved, or I got back involved probably 4 years ago now. The timing ended up being right, and things have gone very well. And it ends up being little changes, lots of little changes, and they make big results in the end.
Okay. So as working on something with equipment and truck parts, and I've heard this from our truck shops all over the nation, how is parts affecting you right now? Because I know it's kind of funny. They talk about it being a hit and miss. Some parts that you can get just on the spot right then and there, and then parts you would think of are on back order. I hear stories of dealerships being back ordered, where they have hundreds of trucks sitting on their lots just waiting for parts. Are you guys running into that too?
A very little bit. Some things are delayed more than they had been, but we haven't really run into any big snafus where we couldn't actually get anything. So we've been very fortunate with what we've been working on that way.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. But there are definitely kinks in the supply chain for just like David, you just said, David, as far as things that you would not expect to be having a delay, there are. For instance, we use a Castle product, Shop Solve, a lot, and we had run out because there wasn't any available. We just got a partial shipment. We got 3 or 4 cases to get us back in order with that, not having to use other stuff. And that was one of the things that we really didn't expect there would be any supply issue.
Right. Now, TJ, I want to go back to what you said earlier about putting money into savings and things like that, because we've had a almost 2-year period now of challenges for just about any kind of business. And how did having that savings, those reserves, affect your business during this time?
So we were actually very fortunate. When the first part of the biggest scare hit, we slowed down by choice, and trimmed back like our state recommended, as far as there were two of us full time at the shop, and other crew, just sat back and watched for a while. But everybody around us slowed down too. We fortunately actually never had to dip into any of our reserves in any form, which was absolutely spectacular. I was actually hoping when we stepped back for a little while, I was going to have a few minutes to get some of my own projects done, but that was far from ever happening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Gotcha.
but having those reserves and not having to touch them is a great thing. But did it give you a different sense of security, or maybe change the way you operated when everybody else was kind of pulling back and condensing? Did it make you think like, no, I don't really have to, we're okay?
Yeah, it's a spectacular feeling to know that, hey, no matter what happens, we are okay. Granted, you don't want to dig into those reserves, and not be able to replace them. But on the same token, there was no question I was going to be able to pay my employees or any bills that we had. We were fully covered in that manner.
That's great. Now, you mentioned, things are different now. Not all bad. Tell us a little bit about either changes you've made in the last couple of years that you maybe didn't expect to make, but turned out to be good. That kind of thing.
So over the last couple of years, we've actually made a lot of little procedural changes. More encouraging people not to come and wait, because we only have a one chair waiting room anyways, being we never designed our building to have a waiting area, but we certainly more encourage, and people have more accepted the fact, hey, we really shouldn't wait now with a vehicle. Right. We more encourage things to be dropped off, which makes life a whole lot easier to manage today. Which is, for the most part, the way we've always scheduled anyways, but we made it even better in that manner.
Great.
Yeah.
So I do have another question. Right now in the industry, there seems to be a shortage of technicians. Everybody's looking for technicians and everything. Now your shop's a little bit more unique, and I know a little bit because my shop was like that too. But when you work on anything from a Prius to a big truck or heavy equipment, how do you find technicians that are flexible to do that? Because I hear automotive shops saying, well, it's hard to find a technician for just these certain makes and models that we're working on, but you're working on all makes and models from light duty passenger cars all the way up to heavy equipment. And that's a big spectrum to work on.
It definitely is. And, I'm very fortunate. I've got some veteran technicians I've had with me for a while. And actually, my senior truck technician, I've just recently moved him up to shop foreman, which is greatly helping me as far as the running of the shop. Allows me in more to the management side and taking care of other issues. But my service writer and shop foreman are doing very well at taking care of the day-to-day operating of the shop itself. As far as finding people, I've got a real good guy who's on trucks, and a good guy on lighter and medium duty. COVID has taken a hit on us because one of my good technicians actually is a work release inmate from our local prison farm. And I've given him a chance, and he is turned out to be a super technician, but for the past month and a half or 2 months, I haven't had him because they've been on COVID lockdown. So that's put a crimp on things for us. But I hope, in the information I'm getting, I should have him back. I'm hoping within the next week or so, and he'll actually be out, and he really wants to stay with us because we've given him a good opportunity, and he has proven very well as far as seeing where he wants to be going, and he's focused on doing so.
You know, that's
awesome.
That's a unique piece right there. And I know
Yeah.
Chris and I just like, and I'm going to explore this a little bit. But how'd you come on to coming into like the work release program with the local president over there? You know, you found a good guy there working with you, because I'm sure that you just had a lot of people tune in and saying, I never thought about this.
Yeah. So I have I've known several of the guards that have worked down there in the special programs, and the special programs actually don't exist anymore, such as there was an auto body program and there was a building trades program. And I knew the two instructors for that personally very well. And when they had good students or good inmates, they were very good. You know, when they're good, they're good. When they're not, you know it very quickly, and you don't, you send them back. But no, I've got a good rapport with the people in charge down there, and we're 4 or 5 miles from the facility, and they provide employees to a lot of the local businesses. But just like anything, you've got to get the right ones. And when you do get the right ones, you've got somebody good. And the thing with an inmate from there is they're focused on what they're doing. They'd much rather be at work than anywhere else that is in their opportunity range at the moment.
Yeah, right. Now, you mentioned something that's, I think, so important. And also, I just want to let our audience know that you're not in a big city. You're in a small town in Maine. You got what, 5,000 people, something like that in your town?
Roughly that, yes.
And yet there are ways to find quality people. And as you said, and this applies to any source of personnel you might have, you don't know what you're going to get until they arrive. And then you've got to make the decision quickly. They're either good or they're not. And if they're good, you hang on to them. And if they're not, you move them out as quickly as you can. And that is so basic, yet such an important point, especially because we have such a tech shortage, and some guys you get are good, some guys are not, and you got to make those calls. Yeah, it sounds like you've got that taped.
Well, there's always room for improvement.
Sure.
As with everything. But we're doing okay for sure. We have a local tech school, and I have I've had several students from there. I currently have a young girl working for me who is in tech school, and she's now going to local college, which is about 75 miles away, for diesel technologies. And she has her heart set on being right here at my shop.
That's
and
great.
She fits in with us super well. She has an excellent work ethic. She loves to learn. And she's a girl who's been bullied in the past by, when you're in school in an automotive program and you're a girl, doesn't always turn out well.
Right.
But she, has been bullied in the past, but she fits in beautifully with us, and she actually brings up the attitude of everybody around her, which is an awesome thing.
Yeah, that is.
You just brought up a very big point, and I've talked about this several times on many different occasions, TJ, but it sounds like you actually listened to part of this in some of the hiring and stuff that we've talked about at Drive so many years. But if you are not catering and trying to attract women into your business, even as technicians, you're eliminating 50% of the workforce that's available for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I take away from what you've said so far is it's about building relationships with places that can help you find those resources, the tech schools, the prison, things like that. And sounds like you've got some pretty good results from doing just that.
Definitely trying to. With the tech school for the automotive program at our local tech school, myself and my truck technician, who had been a student down there years ago, are both on the advisory committee for that program. And we were invited to do so because we have the interest and because we need the people, obviously.
Right. Absolutely. Now, I want to shift gears just a little bit because of something else you said earlier about you've got people that are taking care of the day to day. So how much time do you actually have to spend in the shop these days?
So I'm there 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for shop things. And sometimes I do stuff on the weekends, but not necessarily on customer vehicles. When I am working on customer vehicles, it's on the specialty side of things, as far as antique fire trucks. Today and yesterday I was working on a 1937 Dodge Brothers fire engine.
Wow.
And last week I had a steam pumper fire engine from 1904. I have some interesting things I get to play with.
So you're at the shop, you're spending all that time at the shop, but you're just basically having fun.
Trying to, yes.
That's great. No, I mean, and see, that's to me one of the best things about getting a shop dialed in is that you then have the opportunity to do the things that interest you rather than have to oversee the day to day because you've put the people in place who can do that for you.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
One of the things with my shop is my home, in all essence. I've built it from the ground up like many shop owners have. But when I say I've built it from the ground up, I mean we've
Literally
built it from the ground up. So for instance, the main building is right here over my head, and there's another 6,000 square foot building here. My home is a farm up here, and my parents' home is here. And I'm very fortunate. Both my parents are, I still see them, on a day-to-day basis. My father is in the shop. He does deposits and some miscellaneous things like that, helps take care of that end. And that's a huge help with me. And my mother does entering of some of the bookwork and writing, paying some of the bills. And I'm very fortunate, in a huge way, to be able to have them available to do that. And we all enjoy each other's company, which is entirely awesome.
Right. I saw recently you and your dad do some off-road stuff in the desert, and you get the time to travel with him and have some fun that way too. Yeah.
We do. He and I are both guides for Jeep Jamboree USA, and we have one of the longest running jamborees here in the state that Jeep Jamboree USA has done. And that's something that we get to spend some time doing, and we get the opportunity to go enjoy ourselves at other times.
That's great. That's super.
So going back, we just talked about it. I know Chris had mentioned it, your small town, kind of rural area in Maine. How is that different than you've seen? Because I know you've networked with shops and stuff that are in a big city now, but it sounds like it also puts you in a position where you work on anything and everything because that's what your clientele has in your area.
That is correct, and that's how I started. Working on things. Is if something was broke, I fixed it, and it grew from there. From everybody's personal vehicle to their trucks, their commercial equipment, their farm tractors. Didn't matter what it was. If it had moving parts, well, eventually it would break, and then they'd bring it to me and I'd fix it. So, and it's always been hard to say no. So you end up still doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And well, just that, because I've lived in, my shop was in a rural area too, but I know it also helps bring business to you because you work on that farmer's tractor and he says, oh, my wife's car's acting up, or, you're working on somebody's truck and they're like, oh, we have a company car too that we need somebody to look at. And it does expand what you can work on and expand the number of work and vehicles you can bring into the shop.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. So what would you say, you talked about the reserves and stuff. I know you've been with Drive for quite a while as a client of ours. What would you tell other shop owners there about some of the things you learned or what was most beneficial for you?
So by putting away reserves, that I would say is one of the single biggest huge things is we put up our first shop, our main building, which is 6,000 square feet. And we took a very short-term loan on that, got that paid quite quickly. But the other building, the other 6,000 square foot building, which is now entirely closed in, heated, and is where I do other things and keep things. But I was able to build that and finish everything off without borrowing any money whatsoever, and not at any point running low. It didn't happen all at once, but anything we need, we are able to save up for and pay for on our own and not borrow a dime. So instead of paying somebody else interest, we're able to make interest.
That's great.
And as far as other things that we've changed, we've gone to a digital platform. We use Auto Vitals to be able to hand out all of our repair orders and communication between the front and the back. And what that allows us to do is allows much better communication stream. And that has made a huge difference as far as what the flow of things go. So as you noticed, I just added some light because actually the sun is going down here. But we use that also for digital inspections, which we had always never done up until recently, because it was more of a hindrance because we didn't want to bury ourselves further than we already were with more work. But once you get to yourself and your shop to the right stage, doing the inspections and enhancing communication, especially in this day and age, is going a long way.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, well, unfortunately, the time flies when you're over here really quick, TJ. We are coming up at the end of our show, so thank you for coming on, and congratulations on you and your family's success and everything you guys got going there. Wonderful operation and well ran.
Well, and like I tell my crew all the time, we do a weekly meeting, but everything we have is not because of just what I'm doing. It's to do with everything we're doing as a whole. It takes all of us to make it happen, not just one of us.
Absolutely.
Well, I always want them to know that any changes that I'm trying to make, I want them on board with, and it's for all of our futures, not just mine.
Very well said. Very well said. So, shop owners, if you're listening, I'd say take some advice from TJ, get your crew engaged with you, make them feel part of something, and things will happen. Put your money to reserves. You never know when you need it, but when it's there, it can make your life easier at the shop. And then as far as us at Drive, we'll be back on January 7th. We're going to take a break for the holidays. We wish everybody a happy holidays, happy new year. And want to remind everybody that next week for our clients, there is a special workshop going on goals, which is a perfect time to start thinking about your 2022 goals. So we hope you all get registered and attend that. And if you need any information on it, talk to your consultant and they'll help you get set up. So everybody have a happy holidays and we will see you next year.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, TJ.